I'd like to introduce our model today, Bridget Meyer. And this is carrying on a long tradition because we have a few samples of my work. That's my dog Maggie, and this is my daughter Marka, and this is Bridget's daughter Maria. Who are you? Oh, I am. This is my day to demo, isn't it? Nobody else can. Okay, so today we're going to do a portrait in pastel, and I will tell you the process that leads up to. First of all, you have to find a victim, and that is not easy. So that's very, she's sitting here under these hot lights. Next, you should wear clothing that is washable. This isn't as bad as acrylic, which never comes out for anything. I have many outfits that are splattered with acrylic. And then this is a little trick. I think these gloves, they're $100 for $6. When the phone rings, you just rip that glove off. It's not as good as the finger, if you'll forgive the expression, but it keeps your hands clean, which is nice. So without further ado, all right, and then I'm going to talk about paper next. This is my least favorite paper, but it's all that was there today. This is the paper. I'm going to pass this around, and if you'd pass it around like so, if you do anything to this paper, like a scratch or anything, it's permanent. And you can rub it and rub it and rub it and get it off. But this is velour paper that Dennis sells, and this is what I did the doggy on. If you're doing pussycats, horses, dogs, this is wonderful paper. It just practically paints your things for you. And I learned that technique from Bonnie Swart, and oh, if she ever gives a workshop, be sure you sign up for it. I have a thing here of this devoted to Bonnie's stuff. Bonnie uses this kind of, what do you call this? Scratchy stuff? Sandpaper. Sandpaper. You flunked that. I'm expecting better from you, especially the front row. Anyway, this is sandpaper, and she just scrubs that until she has a lovely little pile of powder. Then she paints with the powder, and it gives that lovely soft effect. Anyway, I highly recommend it, and she's just a wonderful teacher. Okay, and so this is the velour paper, and we'll pass that around. I guess you could all be trusted to just handle the edges, but I'm watching you.
Keep the good one.
Yes. And
good job. You didn't even drop anything on the hand.
And then there's a paper that Dennis sells at the local dime store. What's it called now? Wright's. It used to be Ben Franklin. And it has dimples in it. It looks just like the surface of a golf ball, but it has lots of tooth, and that's what you want for a paper. This paper is supposedly Strathmore's finest, and I don't like it very much because it doesn't have tooth, doesn't have much tooth, but we'll see how it works today. This is just all I can find at home. And Dennis's, I was demoing one here, and I said, the only thing I don't like is this surface, this golf ball surface. And someone said, have you ever tried turning it over? And I looked at her, well, what a concept. And I turned it over, and the other side is wonderful. It's smooth, but still has plenty of tooth. So anyway.
What did you say it was called? I couldn't.
This is a Strathmore's, this is Strathmore's, and I don't recommend it. That's what I'm going to be using today. And then Dennis has something called, does anybody know what that paper is that he has? It's called, anyway, he sells it by the sheet.
Who's Dennis?
Dennis is the guy in charge of frames at Wright's. What used to be Ben Franklin is now Wright's. Anyway, he has, and then the other thing is something very expensive called Wallace. And let's see if I have any samples of that. And Wallace is merely extremely fine sandpaper. That's tooth. And if you do this too much, you end up with a bloody finger. It's just taking, but nobody can ever take your fingerprints again. That's a good thing. But anyway, Wallace paper is the best. It's wonderful. And it's $25 for a sheet about like so. So this is why we're not using Wallace. And it's hard, I just find it hard to send away, you have to write down the little number and phone, and that's a lot of work. Very confusing. So it's easy to just go down to Wrights and just get what he gives you. What?
When you say tooth, does that mean texture?
That means, literally, when you rub it, you can feel something. A tooth is what will grab the pastel. The opposite would be wax paper. The opposite would be any paper that's shiny. The duller the paper, the more texture it has. Now, there's some watercolor paper that has texture, and that doesn't work because it's not right. So Wallace is a paper that you can send away for. It's very expensive. Mrs. Who was the fiery 83-year-old that wrote the nasty letters to the triplicate? She died, huh? McClendon or something like that. McFadden or something like that. Anyway, she would send away and buy 250 sheets at a time, and I bought from her. And she would charge me $15 for them sheet. She was making money, and it was a lot easier. And I've tried to talk Dennis into ordering for us. It would be wonderful if a whole bunch of us got together and ordered that paper, because that is the best. You'll see an sample of that out here. It is Lynn Parker's masterpiece. And if you get up close, you'll see that she's done it on a Wallace paper. And it's wonderful.
Is another name for that sanded paper?
What?
Is another name for that sanded paper?
Yeah. I mean, that describes that it's sanded paper. But if you don't know the brand name, it's hard to order it.
So
and I think it's made in Germany.
Oh, that.
Wallace, W-A-L-L-I-S. And when you go in the other room, halfway down this wall, you'll see a mountain scene that Lynn Parker's done. And you'll see that, you just have to touch that paper, what texture, anything you want, that paper will do
understand
it.
that you rub your fingerprints off with the sanded paper.
I just said that, Nancy. You get an F for paying attention.
You have to speak a little louder. It is hard to hear.
Okay, now are you having any, hey Judy, can you hear me?
It is hard for me to hear.
Okay, and I'm hard of hearing, so I'm very sympathetic. So let's see if I can project to the back row.
Huh?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now this is the lighting that I like. So this is why I use this. So if you'll look, that's wonderful. If you could look up at her. Okay, now turn your head just a little bit. We'll keep, turn your head that way, more, more. See, as the more she turns, the more the light is picking up her features. Okay, now, and the poor thing, 1 hour. I don't know. All right, so, all right, and now this.
I sit for 3 days to have my hair done, so I can sit for an hour.
Okay, the pastels come in a box like this, all beautifully arranged. And, once you've picked up one, unless you want to take 5 minutes to find out the exact spot, that doesn't work.
Hey,
So,
excuse me, would you hold up the pastels higher so the people, blind
okay.
people like me can see?
This is a
Thank
Dutch
you.
pastel box, and this is what it would look like if I were to mess inside. And I found this unsatisfactory. I kept looking for ways to put my pastels, and this was my solution. And so this is, I think it's a tackle box. And you just put light colors, that's the best you can do. And so then you can just fling them in, you know, the yellows, the oranges, the reds and the pinks and so forth, the blacks and the whites. And everybody see that? And for me, I have found that's the best solution. And then there are some, it's always nice for an artist to share how she cheats a little bit. I'll show you my cheaters here. Oh, and this is some woman, she's apparently nationally known, was giving a pastel class up in Brookings. And I got so enthusiastic and so carried away, and I spent like $300 or $400 on pastels. Well, that's inhibited me, so I've never used them. So here they are. This is Terry Ludwig's.
Ooh, pretty.
Ooh, that's what I said. Ooh, I'll take one.
Over here.
Oh.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, and of course, not content with one box.
Garetta, what brand is that?
This is Terry Ludwig's pastel. And Maggie Price was the teacher. So she gets her, you know, she says Maggie Price's basic values, 60 pastel sticks. So much for Maggie Price. I don't know. Maybe today is the day we should use these. But see, I've never used them, so I hate to just start in with a demo using them, because it's like holding a stick of dynamite, you know. You light a fuse. And so of course, once you know, in for a sheep, in for a lamb, what's that expression? Anyway, so then of course I had to buy these. I can see if you'd been in that class, you'd have bought them too. Intense darks. These are intense darks, never used. Now this wonderful little set is what Ben Franklin sells. And these are really cheap, and I think they're wonderful.
Because she uses them.
I guess I could take the rubber band off and reveal the inner works to you. And this really is everything you need. Here's another box. I couldn't resist that same day. By now, I've spent $300 or $400. What's one more?
Show it to the camera. There you go. There you go. Good.
You should use them.
Fortunately, it was around 5 o'clock. She didn't have any more to sell. I slunk home, and do you think I ever told Andy about these? Andy's my husband. Never. Okay, now these are new pastels, and what's the name for the French new pastels? Anybody know?
Pastel.
Anyway, these don't smear, and you can do a portrait with them, but every stroke is going to be there forever. And they have just a little bit of wax in them, and they're hard little critters. So this is, I wish I could think of the French name for these. So these are made in France. What are they called? Anyway, so I used the black and the white of this because it's smaller. We're working with, you know, here we're trying to do a portrait, and we're working with sticks that are the size of your finger. So when you get a little smaller, and as long as you're going to cheat with the new pastel, you might as well go all the way.
Right, it's not crepe-a. There's something crepe-a, which is a crepe and a pastel mixed, sort of. No.
I'll think of it, maybe. And these are wonderful when you're trying to do eyes, because it's really, really hard to get in. But the trouble with these, if you're a beginner, is that it's tempting to do the whole thing this way. And there are artists that do everything with these pastels, or colored pencils. These are pastel pencils. Colored pencils, you make a stroke, that's it. So you work very, very lightly and blend by just doing many strokes. This I use for accents like the iris, the pupil, the eyelashes, and little strands of hair. So we'll leave these out.
I got here late, and so I wanted to be sure there's some for each of you.
Oh, we'll have those for dessert.
Right.
Why don't you offer that as incentive if the portrait turns out well here? If you stayed there for an hour, if I... Okay. Okay, so then the next thing is our paper, which is... It's dangerous sitting where you are.
Yeah, here.
And Bridget, you better rescue that.
Okay.
All right, now the next thing I do is, you know, this, I can see that this has more tooth. One side has more tooth than the other, so I'm going to flip this. And I'm very suspicious of this paper because the tablet has never been used, so there must have been something wrong with it. We'll find out the hard way.
Loretta, do you like the side with more tooth or less tooth then?
What?
You said one side has more tooth than the other. Do you use?
Yes, one side was smooth, absolutely smooth, and the other I can see faint texture. With the stuff that Dennis sells, it looks like a golf ball on one side, and that's a lot of texture.
So
And when
you
you're doing
use
a
this-
portrait, did I do this one? No, this one. This one looks very similar to the paper I'm using today, so.
So you like the textured side?
I hated that golf ball stuff,
Oh.
but it was all he sold. And some smart aleck in the audience said, "Have you ever turned it over?" You know? And I turned it over and it was fabulous.
So you like the smooth side?
I like the smooth side. Of that, only if the smooth side has texture. Over that, I recommend the Wallace, which is sandpaper. Now, the sandpaper that you buy in a hardware store is, I think the finest you can get is 007. There's a carpenter back there, he can tell us. Is that the finest sandpaper you can get? He plays his cards close to his chest. He knows what it is. Anyway, but Wallace is even finer than that. But don't be deceived, you know, it feels like very fine grain. But if you do much blending, as Nancy says, you end up with no fingers or even blood. So, be cautious, don't get carried away. Everyone gets carried away and finds out the hard way. All right, so now we have this blank piece of paper. We have our beautiful model. And you have to think of a stick coming through the back of your head and out your nose. That's your pointer. So point it someplace, and you'll notice in the course of, you know, that you'll gradually move away. And you don't want me to slap you. You've got to bring that nose back.
Okay.
Buckle like this, and you'll know you're close.
All right.
And the eyes looking in the same place. So your eyes are, oh, that's very nice.
Okay. So I'm looking at your daughter's eyes.
Yes, that's a good place to look.
Okay.
Okay. Now. So I'll go, for my sketching tool, I'll go for a neutral color that isn't going to show up too much. And here we go. So, and I try not to make it bigger than life size. The 3/4 life size is nice. And this looks life size to me. So, you know, no matter, don't pay too much attention to what I say. What I do, right, Bridget? Bridget, by the way, now I'm not going to, when I really try to make a nice portrait, I don't talk. Because I have one of those brains, I think it's very common that you can't rub your tummy and talk about art and paint at the same time. Left, right side of the brain. And I think I've told some of you, I was doing a demo up in Brookings, and unknown to me, the president had just gone and bawled the Curry pilot out because they weren't covering their demos. So, of course, I was the next demo, and they had the reporter and the photographer, and so I did my thing, and I was explaining about left side, right side, and so the headlines of the pilot was, "Artist uses half a brain to draw." So at this point, rowdy remarks from the audience are appreciated. It keeps everybody awake. Don't raise your hand, just say it.
No gloves.
Thank you. Yes,
They're on your lap.
thank you. You are paying attention, that's such a good sign. Oh, thank you. This really saves your outfit. If you'll fold the paper up, this is just constantly powdering, and it collects at the bottom of your paper. Thank you. Now, these gloves are over 10 years old, my box. That shows you how many portraits I do. And so they usually just split, because they really, that's a little too old.
You could probably get some new ones at your dentist's office. Maybe they're different though.
Dentist office.
You're back from your vacation, or your husband isn't back?
He's not back, I am back.
Can you do any work for him?
You wouldn't want me to. He'll be back Monday.
He didn't like the job that the dentist had done on these 3 lower teeth.
Yeah, sorry.
No, he and I said, I like him. But he said, no, you've got to have to do it. Sorry. No, he didn't do it. You know, it's his colorist down in
I'm gonna run out of film.
Yeah, now I can see him. So am I in the right spot? Are you in the right spot? I don't have
Yeah.
to worry about you. You can make adjustments.
I'm just seeing how much film we have left.
Okay, we've got to work fast, Bridget. So it's up to you all to entertain yourselves. From now on.
Way to go, Chuck.
We need a darker chalk.
Oh, well, this is just my sketching chalk. It's going to get darker.
Okay.
I'd like to mention, while Garetta is starting off here, if none of you have been over to the studio in Bandon that is on the seaside of the street, it's kind of in the back of one of the gift stores. That gal is a fantastic pastel and crayon artist. She'll sell you anything, and she's got everything right there in pastels, and if they are decent prices.
Thank you. Now I'm finding the disadvantage of this paper. You really want a paper that's a little bit darker so that your darks show up and your lights show up. So a medium gray, maybe it's not too late to go to
Yeah, it's not even showing up on the camera.
You can take a break on the camera.
No, these are all pretty pale. So it's just going to take more work to make it. Okay. Well, for purposes of, oh, let's not go that far. Now, this piece of, that I picked up is bad, and that's the difference between this and the $300 box I just, this has a hard edge, it's cutting the paper rather than laying the pastel down. Here's kind of a gray, we'll try the gray, yeah, that's better.
Yeah, that's more like it. Now it's showing up on camera.
Can you sand off the bad part?
Can what?
Can you sand off the bad part?
You can rub it, or you can just go over it with what you want, another pastel. But in the sketching phase, it's better to work very lightly. Now, someone's murmuring in the background. I'm just straining my ears to hear.
What are you sketching with?
Pastels.
Is that what you're sketching with, a pastel?
Uh-huh. These are called pastels. And pastels are just the chalk that you used when you were a child in the school, but that had a lot of filler in it. This is more pigment than filler, but it's the same thing. It's just they grind up whatever, you know, it used to be minerals that would be rock color. They grind them up and press them together. And the less glop that you use to press it together, the better the pastel. So that little thing that I picked up, obviously, you know, whatever was mixed to hold it together, I got that edge instead of the pigment itself. The pastels that they used in Egypt are as good today as the day they were used. All of your colors, whether they're oil paint, acrylic, watercolor, pastel, gouache, all use the same pigment, just a different glop to hold them together. The glop is called vehicle, that's the word, a different vehicle to hold them together. So pastel has less vehicle than any of the other colors, so therefore the colors remain good. The most color-fast colors are the earth colors, and they, as we all know from the stains on your children's knees, you know, the earth colors are hard, they last the longest. The more fragile colors, well, and now they're so good at making colors, they give you their estimate of the longevity of the colors they're using. So they have, what's that word, fugitive, means that avoid a fugitive. Especially if you're a pro, you know, you want your colors to, now, I did a big watercolor and someone hung it in their window and it got the morning sun. In 4 years, that watercolor faded out to the yellow basket became gray. The great big brilliant orange pomegranates were faded to nothing. And the very good, someone who taught us was from the Chicago, he was head of the Chicago Institute of Art. Where's Doris? Anyway, he said it wasn't my paints, it was the paper. That especially these guys, Strathmore, he said never use Strathmore paper because their paper eats pigment. So, but anyway, so you have to use the best paper and the best colors and make sure they're not fugitive. In the pastel, it doesn't make any difference because they're all, the vehicle is not so important. There's almost nothing holding these together. And the higher quality, like when you get into $300 or $400, I hate for a teacher to say you have to use $300 or $400. I've been sketching now for 50 years using these cheaper pastels, and they have held up beautifully. So I don't think you have to go to my $300 or $400. And if I'm inhibited, wouldn't the rest of you be? Okay, no more talking. Talk. hold up my finger if I start talking, because I cannot sketch and talk at the
Yeah,
same
no
time.
more questions.
What? Oh. No, I'm trying to come in a little closer on the drawing here, like this.
And I try not to blend with my finger, I just go over it with another color. And as far as if you just use any color, now I'm using orange, it has nothing to do with the highlight of her face, but it's a lighter color, and I can come in with any darker color, like purple, and it'll still read like a portrait because it's how the light hits the surface. You want to use light where the light is hitting the surface, and any darker color for the darker one, for the shadow. And whether you're doing an orange or a tree or a mountain, the light is hitting these surfaces the same way. So if you have an orange, and this part of the orange is nearest the light surface, so that will be a highlight. This around here will be where, it, like just the moon, it is descending into shadow. And then on this side, unlike the moon, we get a reflective light sometimes. So this is not the darkest part on the far side. And every round surface on your face, just remember the orange. So you have a little orange here at the tip, you have oranges here, you have a little orange here. This is actually a column, so it's how a cylinder reacts to the light. Now, this, I keep picking up that bad color. So I can just keep going over things, picking up a different color. You're making me nervous.
They don't want to disturb you.
No, I'm disturbed by the quiet. How did I get your daughter's skin color? I hope that's not mine. Doesn't sound like mine.
Oh my God, my phone never rings. I'm so sorry. I don't even know the ring.
And I haven't turned mine off, so when mine rings, just grab my purse and run into the other room. If you know how to turn it off.
No, I did. I apologize. I didn't need to do that.
Turning it off.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm waiting.
I think it's time for you to open that box.
Yeah, try your different.
I mean, what are you waiting for?
We won't go.
Is this the time?
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh,
Yes, it is. Well, you have witnesses. Celebrate. You're certainly
I
worth
am
it.
honored.
She can't do it.
Just remember to put each one back where you found it.
fire into it, Garetta.
No, this isn't the time.
Who said that?
Me.
This isn't the time?
I think it's hard to do that because of the, the stuff you're used to.
Okay.
Yeah, bring it in closer.
But at 80, I'm running out of time. If not today,
Well, that was the point.
yeah, right.
You can't do it now, when can you?
When can you? Okay, and what I'm doing now, and I do this always, is I lay kind of an undercoat of anything, any kind of a darker medium tone, so that when I go for the highlights and the darks, it'll show up. And I can see that this paper has, it has texture. Okay. Carefully putting it back in its little bed. Okay, I said I'd never do this, but I think I'll do it. Never is such an elegant.
What did you put over the orange? What color?
Did anyone notice? I have no idea what these colors are, but first I used orange. And as you use your colors, if you have a big hodgepodge like I do, put these aside so that you can keep going for the same colors if you like it. So fortunately, I would say that color. Yeah, that looks like yellow ochre, the second one. This first one is like no color. This must be one of those day glow colors.
Day glow colors.
Do I see any day glow in this $400 box? No. So we're going to combine them. And you notice almost everybody's, without exception, is the same, especially for our light source is the sun, and I'm trying to have this imitate the sun. Your upper lip is always in shadow, and your lower lip is what catches the highlights. So.
You gonna chalk this one up to experience?
And I had just finished, I hope she's not in the room today, I had just finished a portrait of this woman's grandchild. And the last thing I do is put that little highlight right here. And she said, "What's that mark on her nose? It looks like a zit." So this is wonderful. Now, on the far side, I'm seeing a wonderful, the backlighting is blue. And I think, did I do blue on this one? No, it was warm on this side and kind of dead white on the other side. But this is definitely. Now, are they gossiping? Are they talking about art, or are they talking about, I can't quite hear. Well, they're gonna get the kind of hearing aid that you can turn it up and hear, you know, across the street.
We were just saying we wanted to see the model on the table too.
You want to see the model what?
Well, I knew that. So we're getting a close-up of the model, and then we'll pan down. You see?
And you'll notice, so when I did this first, this darker one, a lot of the texture showed up. And rather than using my finger to blend it,
Okay.
I'm just coming over it with another color, a lighter color to blend it.
This is how I used to do it when I filmed Bob Ross.
Bob Ross. Now, did you actually film Bob Ross or his acolyte? That guy that was over there?
Oh, a guy named Alexander.
Well, wasn't he a Bob Ross?
No, his name was Ross, and he was Bill Alexander.
Oh, it was
trained.
Alexander?
Yeah.
I was wondering if that, what wattage that light is. And if it's hot, if it's
Can
warm.
you look up into, don't.
It's actually not hot.
It's not hot?
No,
Okay.
so I don't know what it is. Actually feels good.
Good. That's good, Chuck. Thank you.
I'll keep moving it around so we get a full experience.
It is a full one. Thank you.
Now, I made a mistake. I want the eye to be 1/4 of an inch to the right. And erasing at this point would be a disaster. So I'm going to try to come in with this lighter color, mix it with the darker color, and see how that works. And that seemed to work okay. Now the eye is starting a little bit. See, Bridget is so nice. She's just sitting so tranquilly. This is a model in a million. the worst model I ever had, and the portrait didn't turn out too badly, but he was a space surgeon. And he drank whiskey all through it and inhaled them as cigarettes while I was getting. And he was telling Texas jokes the whole time. That's hard.
Sounds like a good time to me.
Oh.
Greta, do you ever have to wipe off the pastel, the pastel chalks?
The chalk itself?
Yeah. do you-
Every once in a while, maybe 50 years ago, I'd try to clean up my
Yeah.
set. Doesn't
Don't-
work. And then some of them have a little paper around them, and I try to hang on to the paper. Nothing works.
Okay, thank you.
And this is why putting light pastels in a little box where they're more or less the same color, that's your only hope of...
Do you ever sharpen them, Garetta, with your sandpaper?
No, but I do sharpen the pencils.
But you, oh, okay, you just use the pencil.
And you
Just
do
rotate
like
the
these ones
corners.
with a little sharp corner. At it again.
I said, looking at the screen, you can really see where it's starting to come to life.
I played tennis yesterday. So they said they play from 11:30 to 1, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I got there, and everybody was whacking away 100 miles an hour. So I asked the head guy. I said, "Is there anyone a 2? You're supposed to rate yourself between 1 and 7. If you're a 1, you've never played before. If you're a 7, you're playing Agassiz next weekend and you expect to win." So I said, "Any 2s?" And he looked around, he didn't see any 2s, but there were 2 little boys, age 10, and they had rackets in their hand, and I said, "How about these 2?" And they kind of looked at me. They didn't want to play with great grandma, and I thought, if you can stand the humiliation, that's just right. So, and I said, one of them, you play with me, I need help. And we had, I only played about 10 minutes, but we improved dramatically in 10 minutes.
It's because of the camera, I suppose.
I was pleased.
The camera.
I don't know what
Makes the colors different.
they told their mother. The most important thing when your model sits down, don't ever do what I do almost every time. The model sits down and the muscle under the eye is tight, and she's just full of anticipation. And I'll say, "Did you see the news this morning?" And I describe the Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Whole face goes down and I think, what have I done again? So, keep it light. So whatever and I have one wonderful portrait of another daughter at home, and she's got this smile and the eyes are full of hatred. And she had posed long enough and she wanted to quit, and I said, "Eddie, smile." She said, "I am smiling." And so I did her portrait, and that's how, and I tell everybody, "I'm that good. You give me that look and I'll get it." I didn't mean to threaten you.
To scare you. Are smiles hard to do in portraits?
A smile, it's not that the smiles are easy for me to do, but a smile is an elusive, fleeting thing. So if the person sits down with this huge smile, they can only hold it 1 second, and pretty soon the mouth is trembling and they just can't hold the smile. Every once, 1 out of 100, the smile is their natural look. But most of us, it's not. So what you aim for is pleasant. That's all you can hope for when you have a long, you're going to be sitting there a long time. And if you have little children, only do one eye. Because, and then that keeps them there because they want that other eye.
Well, I would actually look beautiful with my head shaved.
What a thought! Oh, and you're looking at it.
Yeah, I have to
You're
try
not
that.
supposed to be looking at it.
This has never happened to the model before, that usually, you know, man,
not
no, not yet, not yet.
She's not supposed to be looking there, though.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You're having plastic surgery done right now.
Do you ever do any from portraits?
Oh, yeah, that's easy.
It
You know,
is.
well, it's just transferring the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't move.
Yeah.
You can measure, you know, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah, but
And
you're
the
not
person
getting-
doesn't know that how easy it is to just do it from.
No, because I think, well, I suppose it is after you've done them for a while and you're, you know, getting really good, because you don't have the depth in a photograph as you do in a live person. So in other words,
But that's what's hard to capture, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And you have the best model in the world in the mirror. You'll stay as long as you like, you know. So, and that is much better practice than a photograph. But for sure, start with a photograph.
Have you done your self-portrait?
Yes,
Have we seen that?
yes, it's hanging in my garage. I was
I don't think I've seen that.
18 years old.
You should have been your garage, should have been your living room.
I have a lot of things in my garage. What is she thinking? You can tell when they start counting beans. Let's see, I need apples and eggs and bread.
Garetta, do you put the hair on last?
Uh-huh. Only because my hand is moving over and that's a lot of black to
She'd
jump
look a
over.
lot better with hair.
I don't know, it still looks a bit bald.
I didn't hear, but
I said she'd look a lot better with hair.
she likes it without hair. She may just go right home and shave it all off.
See right over here.
So special. I didn't know there would be this many people, so I feel really like a superstar.
Yeah, there you go.
Garetta draws a full house.
Thanks to the wonderful publicity of Ichigo, Lee Bising. Thank you, that was a lovely article. Promised more than I could deliver, but that's what publicity is all about.
But you told me.
I lied. other thing is that you should admonish your sitter to not go to the beauty parlor the day before. You know, they'll have a bouffant, they'll have a new color. It changes their look completely. So what you want is every day. And it's a good idea to just do a little bit overall and not concentrate, but I like to do the eyes first because that wonderful muscle under the eye that makes them look so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, gradually it leaves until finally at the end of the hour you have, you know, someone that is probably halfway asleep. So.
So how did you do your self-portrait? You looking in the mirror or from the photograph?
Mirror. Now this paper, this is maybe the third coat that I'm putting here, and it's not accepting it. So that's the difference between sandpaper. Sandpaper, you could just be doing this all day and it would still pick it up. What? Is someone flirting with you? Oh, all of a sudden. Yeah. Oh, Mr. Bridget. So Bridget goes back to her home country, if not her village, but you actually go all over, don't you? And picks museum quality baskets up and brings them back and offers them to museums around the country. But right now, she's had so many baskets that she's culling them and only keeping the very, very best. And she's selling the others. What's the name of that place? Attitudes?
Latitudes.
Latitudes. Latitudes. So if you see those baskets, they're Bridget's. Those are yours.
Well, none of them are. She has
Where's Latitude?
It's right on the border between us and Oregon.
Oh, where you get the boat station.
By the Narco.
Yes.
And this is the most delicate part of a woman's portrait. See that little line I just made? Adds 10 years. If I darken it, 20, you know.
Wow.
So all you have to do to flatter a woman is leave those lines out completely.
What, is that under the eye? I didn't see.
Under the eye. See that one? And there's one over here. So I'm dealing with that very lightly depending on how much she bribes me.
This never feel good thing.
I kind of like not putting the black on, just leaving what I have there. And then to recapture some of the light, I'll just go back over with the color, a lighter color. See, none of these $300 colors appeal to me. Actually, going back to this one. Now, I have a terrible decision to make here. This lovely little, and this is another thing, you should always put that little tear in the eye, just adds so much poignancy. That little tear I put down there, that just, I don't know what it does, but it does something. But in her case, it's white, but I think I'm just going to stick with the two colors. It just seems to be right. Here, I'm going to clean that up a little bit. And there's a certain freshness about the portrait if you can avoid smearing it. Maybe just smearing at the beginning when you're just trying to get a background skin color. But it just looks so much nicer, the pressure, if you can get away with it. It's, when things aren't going well, that's when you erase, you have to, something is horribly wrong. It made the eye, one eye a little bit too big, or half inch lower than it should be, then you're in trouble. I see. Wonderful color way over here. I don't have the nerve to use it. Let's see. And if you can all see, it's this little tear down here at the base of the iris that, I don't know, it just adds something to the portrait. Let's see if I can get it. But the pastel has to cooperate. Now that is a nice little. And we'll put, as the woman said, a zit right at the tip of the nose. She's not here, is she? Sleep, we can leave.
So the medium tone color on the paper would have been a better color to start out with? Something more darker?
Yeah, that often, that often you can just work with white and black if you have the right medium tone. And that makes for a terrific portrait.
Can I pass this around?
Oh, please do.
This is our daughter in college, and she took a makeup class. And so she would use makeup and, is it plaster or stuff that the movie stars use to change the character. So I will pass this around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she did this at Humboldt, and she graduated last year, and she's a dancer in San Francisco. And that's her in there. Greta did that in 2003. Yeah. She wants to get that. We said, no, too, we don't want it breaking up and scratched all over the place, so we are keeping it for her.
So you can see I easily could have done this with just dark and light. Didn't have to go for the blue, but I like the blue. Oh, 10 after 1?
Yeah, 10 after 1?
We're done. I better use his hair quick.
You see, you really didn't need hair.
You can see as I come down here and making corrections.
Oh, Greta, I didn't catch your last name when they had the introduction.
Lamore.
Lamore. Okay, thank you.
As they say in Arabia, why do you want to know?
I want to know.
They never answer a question.
I want to tell my other fellow artists over
Oh,
in the valley.
thank you.
A lot of them do pastels.
She lived in Britain, yeah, for a long time. Her husband was with a company.
So I can see that I have placed the ear a little too high. It should start right there and end there, but I'm not going to correct it. Just giving him high ears.
Well, can you cover her ear, part of her ear with some hair? Oh, no, that still wouldn't work, would it?
I thought about it.
Uh-huh, yeah. I'd be covering, you know, if I was doing, I'd be making so many mistakes, I'd have to cover her whole face with hair.
Not a pleasant prospect.
No, it wouldn't be.
So is the gallery doing anything special on Saturday at the pool for the fundraising?
Yeah, they're having a big party at the cultural center. And, I'm supposed to be signing the books about the children's books.
I was asked to do a Zambian dish. To bring.
Oh,
Yeah.
what country?
Zambia.
Well, I didn't give you a country. I made all the little medallions for the country.
Really?
Yeah. She only gave us 8 countries.
Yeah, well, she hasn't confirmed, but she's asked me, this is Linda Athey, and so I told them we could do
Oh, that would be very
a
exciting.
traditional vegetable with peanuts flour, and then shima, which is a staple food, and then eat it with that or bread. So I could do that. But she told me somebody would call me, and they haven't yet contacted me. Maybe that's why you don't have the information. Otherwise, I could, give you. I have a bag that has the colors of the country with the eagle, which is a symbolism for the country. It's actually a flag. But once they confirm it, I can let you know.
Out of my hands, they've already taken it over to the,
Oh.
but I'm sure they would love to. Well, let's see if I can get a semblance of hair here. Now, what I should do is just call this done, because a portrait takes 2 hours.
I see.
And
Well, that's
if you want to stay, and we'll finish it, but I think we should let everybody go, because we promised them 1 hour.
Oh, okay.
Well, we still got more film. Film's not done yet.
Well, I will not be offended if people have to just get up and run. But I will know where
No,
to
come on.
The runners are gone.
Easier
If someone were gonna start doing pastels, what would you suggest, what kind of subject would you suggest they start with?
The mirror.
Oh, really?
Now, I think that portraiture is the hardest, so if you want to just paint a pastel, start with the landscape.
Okay.
And that Mrs. McCadden, whatever her name was, she would take wonderful calendars, photographs, and then she would make a pastel of them. And she was selling them for between $700 and $1,500. And her son was so proud of her, he put her on eBay, and the photographer recognized his work immediately, phoned her and said, "You do that and I'm taking you to court."
Oh, my goodness.
So she continued to do it until her death, but she never put it on eBay again. But the little shop, the little beauty shop right off the parking lot of Ben Franklin, he was the one, just in that little shop alone, she was selling all that she could.
Well, was it some other artist, work that she was copying?
She was copying a photograph. You're not allowed to sell a photograph if you've copied a photograph.
Right.
So, better than a landscape, is it still, I mean, better than a still life, or is it about the same?
Oh, a still life is also anything that doesn't move,
Yeah.
and that you face. You have to copy. I mean, that everybody knows, especially if it's a relative, you have to. That's getting very exact. So why do, and you don't mind insulting yourself. You'll see how hard it is when you try to do it. That has to be exact. Even a dog is, the owner knows that dog's every expression.
Yes.
So,
Garetta, when you're finished with this whole thing, do you spray it, or how do you?
oh, that's a very good point. I don't spray, because when you spray, I could spray it and even show you what happens. A lot of it disappears into the paper.
Yeah.
And a lot of portrait artists spray halfway through and then continue to work on it. But, and I noticed Bonnie Swart doesn't spray either, and she's been a pro as many years as I have. So, so this is what happens. A lot of that just disappears, and especially, the little things like that, when you put that little highlight, that's just a hunk of dry chalk sitting on a piece of paper. So this is why you want to get it under glass as soon as possible. And you don't want to ever move it to your car on a windy day. And also, in just taking this off, the paper might snap and you'll see the stuff just flying off your paper. So this is unlike an oil, that's the big advantage of an oil or an acrylic, is that they can take a lot of rough wear, whereas this is so fragile. And I've had everything in the world happen. I'm going to put this on top of the refrigerator. Well, and they say, my husband put a piece of pie on top of the refrigerator. So I usually walk it. I try to talk the sitter into letting the two of us go down to Dennis, and when Dennis sees me coming, he knows that I'm going to want him to drop everything and put it under glass that minute, because his wife Susie isn't as respectful as pastel as she should be. She'll slip it in something. Well, sliding it, any paper on top of it, well, they're both, they're afraid of me. And they should be.
Put a spacer between the glass and the paper? Or do they just, does it
You can do it. There are two schools of thought. One is to lower the glass right on the paper. Now you immediately have a mirror image. If you pick the glass up, the mat itself, and pastel is usually matted, so there's that little space, and the dust is collecting down in the bottom on the inside of it. That's just the nature of pastel.
Garetta, would you want to make a few closing remarks, because we're just about out of, this film is going to come to an end.
I'm not done. That's my closing remark. We're going to finish this beyond the ability of the camera to, could you wait a little while, because we should finish this now. I'm thinking about going to the white, because this is looking a little blah on this side. Maybe that pale blue wasn't such a good idea. And I have a lot of work to do on the hair.
For those who have to leave, for those who have to leave, could you hold it up?
Oh, for sure, but, you know, we've got a lot of work to do on the hair, and I'm not too happy with this blue. I'm very happy with the blue of her, that really sparks it up, but I have to do something else over here. I don't know whether to go to black or maybe to white, a little more sparkle.
You hold that a little bit higher, Greg? Thank you.
And turn it this way a little. There we go.
I think Bridget might like to see it.
Oh, would you like to, oh, she's got the television. So, the eyes don't match yet. We've got to get the eyes matching. This takes more work.
It's so educational.
Very educational. Educational that if you talk too much, you can't finish your portrait. Okay, you're all excused.
Okay.
I don't want to be excused, but I have to be excused.
I think we should take a break and come back.